You ever have one of those moments where something just clicks, where you realize, in an instant, that the way you've been living, working, or thinking wasn't wrong, but it wasn't yours? That's the moment everything changes. Because after this, after what you're about to hear, you won't look at your habits, your time, or your decisions the same way again. You'll start to see that every single thing you do, every choice you make, is either designing your destiny or delaying it. We live in a world where people chase more success, more money, more freedom, but they forget that transformation doesn't start with more. It starts with different thinking, different energy, different standards. And here's the truth, you don't need another plan, another strategy, or another how-to. You need a shift. A shift in how you show up. A shift in how you see yourself. A shift in what you believe is possible. So as we begin, I want you to take a deep breath, not the kind you take to relax, but the kind you take when you're standing on the edge of something extraordinary. Because after this moment, you won't just do things differently. You'll be different. The power of awareness is the spark that ignites transformation. It's the moment your mind wakes up and sees beyond the automatic patterns that have been running your life. Most people live in a cycle of repetition, reacting to circumstances rather than consciously creating them. They do the same things, think the same thoughts, and feel the same emotions every single day, and then wonder why nothing changes. Awareness is the first crack in that cycle. It's the moment you catch yourself in the act of being who you've always been and realize you have the power to choose differently. Think about it. Every major change in your life began with awareness. You noticed something wasn't right. You felt that pull inside that said, "There's more than this." Maybe it was your health, your career, your relationships, or your mindset, but something shifted when you became aware of what needed to change. Before awareness, you were asleep, moving through life on autopilot. After awareness, you started to see everything with new eyes. That's the magic. Awareness doesn't just show you what's wrong, it shows you what's possible. The moment you become aware, you reclaim your power. Because now, you're no longer a victim of your environment, you're a creator of it. When you start observing your thoughts instead of being consumed by them, you discover that you're not your fear, your doubt, or your frustration. Those are patterns, not your identity. Awareness lets you step outside those patterns long enough to say, "Wait a second. I don't have to live like this. I can choose something new." That choice is the beginning of freedom. Awareness is also brutally honest. It doesn't sugarcoat reality. It forces you to look at where you've been hiding, avoiding, or settling. It shines a light on the excuses you've been telling yourself about why you can't, why it's too hard, or why it's not the right time. And in that light, you see that those excuses were never the truth. They were just protection. You built walls around your potential because you thought they kept you safe, but they've only kept you small. The power of awareness is in tearing down those walls and letting your authentic power come through. The beautiful part is that awareness doesn't require perfection, it requires attention. You don't need to fix everything right away. You just need to notice. Notice when you're triggered, when you're holding back, when you're avoiding the uncomfortable work. Notice the tone of your self-talk, the energy you bring into your day, and the stories you repeat about what's possible for you. Awareness begins as observation but grows into mastery. The more aware you become, the more intentional your actions become. And when intention meets action, transformation becomes inevitable. Habit is destiny. What you do repeatedly, consciously or unconsciously, becomes the architecture of your life. Every action, every decision, every routine you follow is either moving you closer to the person you want to become or keeping you stuck exactly where you are. People often wait for massive breakthroughs to change their lives, but the truth is that transformation is built on the smallest, most consistent choices you make every single day. The invisible patterns of your behavior are shaping your future more than any moment of inspiration ever could. The reason habits are so powerful is that they operate beneath awareness. They take root in the subconscious, running automatically without asking for permission. You don't think about brushing your teeth, checking your phone, or doubting yourself. It just happens. That's the nature of habit. It's designed to conserve energy. But that same mechanism can either work for you or against you. When you install empowering habits, your subconscious becomes your ally. When you repeat limiting ones, your subconscious becomes your cage. Awareness alone opens the door, but new habits are what walk you through it. The difference between people who achieve extraordinary results and those who don't isn't luck or intelligence. It's structure. It's what they've trained themselves to do when no one is watching. Successful people don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They've conditioned themselves to act even when they don't feel like it. They've turned discipline into identity. The person who works out daily doesn't need to force it. They've become someone who moves. The person who reads every morning doesn't struggle with consistency. They've become someone who learns. The shift happens when the habit stops being something you do and starts being who you are. But changing a habit doesn't begin with willpower. It begins with emotion and meaning. You must connect the habit to a deeper purpose, to the future you're building. When your reason is strong enough, the habit becomes inevitable. It's no longer a task, it's an act of alignment. Every time you follow through, you reinforce a new identity, telling your brain, "This is who I am now." And as you repeat it, your brain wires that identity deeper and deeper until it becomes your natural state. Small changes, done consistently, create exponential results. A 1-degree shift in your direction today may not seem like much, but over time, it completely changes your destination. That's the secret most people overlook. Your destiny isn't determined by a single decision. It's forged by the rhythm of your habits. Your mindset is the ultimate control center of your life. It's the lens through which you interpret every experience, the internal compass that determines how you respond to challenges, and the foundation on which your actions are built. Every achievement, every failure, every moment of growth or stagnation begins in the mind. The way you think shapes what you feel, and what you feel drives what you do. Most people try to change their lives by changing their actions, but they forget that behavior follows belief. If your mind is wired for limitation, no amount of effort will produce lasting freedom. But if your mind is conditioned for possibility, there's no obstacle you can't turn into opportunity. The human mind is a meaning-making machine. Two people can live through the exact same event, yet one sees defeat, while the other sees a lesson. The difference isn't in the circumstance, it's in the mindset. The person with a growth mindset views challenges as fuel, believing every experience is shaping them into something stronger. The person with a fixed mindset sees problems as proof that they're not enough. The shift between those two perspectives is the difference between a life of reaction and a life of creation. Your thoughts aren't just commentary on reality. They are the architects of it. The truth is, your mind doesn't work against you. It works for the story you keep telling it. If you tell yourself you're not capable, your brain will find evidence to prove it. If you tell yourself you're resilient, your brain will look for reasons to support that too. That's how powerful your mental filters are. They decide what gets your focus, and what gets your focus gets your future. You attract not what you want, but what you expect. Expect limitation, and you'll live within it. Expect growth, and you'll expand beyond it. Training your mindset isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing a perspective that empowers you instead of one that paralyzes you. It's realizing that pain, failure, and uncertainty aren't signals to stop, they're invitations to evolve. The mind's greatest power lies in interpretation. You can look at a setback as an ending or as a setup for something greater. You can choose to see fear as a wall or as a sign you're moving towards something meaningful. Rewiring your mindset is a daily practice. It happens when you replace self-doubt with self-direction, when you stop asking, "What if it goes wrong?" and start asking, "What if it goes right?" It's built in the moments you choose gratitude over complaint, curiosity over judgment, growth over comfort. The more you train your mind to find possibility, the more your world begins to expand to match it. The external world bends to the internal one. Your mindset doesn't just influence your life, it creates it. Action without emotion is empty. You can have all the plans, strategies, and goals in the world, but if they aren't fueled by passion, they will eventually fade into routine. Emotion is the driving force behind every lasting change. It's the energy that turns an idea into movement, that transforms discipline into desire. Logic can set a direction, but emotion gives it power. When your heart and your purpose are aligned, your actions carry a momentum that no external obstacle can stop. Most people think change begins with thought, but it truly begins with feeling. You act on what you feel, not just on what you know. You might know what you should do, wake up early, eat healthier, make that call, but if you don't feel it deeply enough, you won't move. Emotion is the ignition switch of human behavior. It's what makes you take risks, push through fear, and keep going long after the excitement fades. Without it, even the best intentions die quietly. Passion is not about being loud or intense. It's about being deeply connected to your purpose. It's about caring so much that you refuse to settle for less than what you're capable of. When your actions come from that emotional core, they stop feeling forced. You stop chasing motivation and start generating it. You stop needing to be pushed and begin to pull yourself forward because what drives you now comes from within. Passion creates consistency, and consistency creates transformation. But emotion isn't just about excitement, it's about meaning. It's the sense that what you're doing matters. When you attach emotion to your vision, your brain begins to wire that goal as a necessity, not a wish. That's when action becomes natural. You stop saying, "I have to," and start saying, "I get to." The difference between obligation and inspiration is emotion. It's what transforms effort into flow. Emotion also gives you resilience. When you're emotionally connected to your mission, setbacks don't break you, they strengthen you. Pain becomes fuel. Rejection becomes redirection. Every challenge becomes part of your emotional story, adding depth and drive to your pursuit. Emotion turns adversity into energy, giving you the courage to keep creating even when results aren't immediate. Every moment is a choice to rewrite your story. Life is not a straight line. It's a series of decisions that either reinforce your past or create your future. Too many people live as though their story is already written, bound by the weight of their mistakes, the opinions of others, or the limits they've accepted as truth. But the reality is, at any moment you can decide to think differently, act differently, and become someone new. You are the author, not the character trapped in a script someone else wrote. The power to change your direction exists in every breath, every decision, every moment of awareness. Your story isn't defined by what happened to you. It's defined by what you decide it means. Two people can experience the same loss, the same rejection, the same failure, and emerge completely different. One sees it as proof they're broken, the other as proof they're being shaped for something greater. The story you tell yourself about your life determines the life you live. If your inner narrative is filled with limitation, your actions will mirror that. But if your story is one of growth, resilience, and possibility, your behavior will align with that truth. What you believe about yourself becomes your destiny, not because it's written somewhere outside of you, but because you live according to the story you've accepted. Every day gives you the chance to make a new choice. You can choose courage over fear, growth over comfort, forgiveness over resentment. The smallest shift in choice can completely alter your path. You might not be able to change your past, but you can change your perspective of it, and that changes everything about your future. The moment you decide to take ownership of your story, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the creator of your experience. Change doesn't require time. It requires a decision. A single decision to raise your standards, to stop waiting, to stop settling, to start showing up as the person you were meant to be. Every decision compounds, every choice builds momentum, every act of courage reshapes your identity. Life will always test you, but it's in those tests that you find the power to choose again and again who you are and what you stand for. Each choice you make writes another line in your story, and the pen has always been in your hand. Stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't mean diving recklessly into chaos. It means choosing intentional discomfort, placing yourself in situations that demand more of you than the old version of you can provide. It's waking up earlier than you want to, speaking up when you'd rather stay silent, taking the risk when fear tells you to wait. Each act of courage builds evidence that you're capable of more. The moment you do something you once thought you couldn't, your identity expands to match that new reality. That's the essence of growth, your self-image stretching to fit the next level of your potential. Fear will always be there. The goal isn't to eliminate it but to walk with it. When you move through fear, you transform it into fuel. You realize that what once terrified you now empowers you. Every time you push a little further, your comfort zone expands, and the things that used to feel impossible begin to feel natural. That's how transformation works, not in a single leap, but through consistent steps into the unknown. The paradox of growth is that the more you lean into discomfort, the freer you become. Because real freedom doesn't come from avoiding fear, it comes from mastering it.